In the sprawling plains of western New South Wales, Andrew Catalaris sees the potential for a hemp industry that could rival the massive cotton industry, which is beset with environmental problems. Andrew's views are backed up by Hans Waldring, a cotton grower and agronomist with Australia's largest agricultural consultancy.
And we're pretty happy with our cotton gross margins. I mean, we know that.
Waldring estimates the gross margins of hemp could be
Well, we've probably got the expertise to grow it really well. You know, we've got good gear and we're a pretty efficient industry. Well, particularly cotton growers. We don't know any cotton, soybeans and sorghum growers are all pretty efficient. I'd say it'd be quite a simple matter to grow the stuff. I don't think you'd have any trouble getting blokes to switch if you can sow the gross margin, say 3 or 4 times as much profit as cotton or soybeans. You would have no problems in getting people to grow it.
The cotton industry is one of the largest consumers of agricultural chemicals in the world. While cotton profits are volatile, strains on the environment are growing with each crop.
In terms of the pesticide issue, hemp will be of benefit. A lot of irrigated crops do have a fairly high dependence on chemicals, and hemp, it would appear, has a very low to nil requirement for chemicals, and a lot of farmers look forward to that, both from a reduction in cost aspect and also to reduce the chemical load on their farms and on the environment.
There are various reasons for the decline of the hemp industry, but the only good reason now that I can really think of, and it certainly isn't a good reason, but the only reason must be that there are various vested interests and industries that exist today that do not want to see the revival of a hemp industry because it competes. It's a natural. And the synthetic companies and the companies that are using non-renewable resources are not going to be too happy with that sort of competition.
Some speculate it was precisely these commercial fears, as well as the drug phobia, that saw the plant prohibited in the first place. By the mid-1930s, after years of decline, the cannabis industry was poised for a revival, with new machines that could make hemp production vastly more efficient. Popular Mechanics predicted that hemp could soon become a billion-dollar crop, providing thousands of jobs and supplying a vast range of products from dynamite to plastics.
We know that a machine was invented that was to hemp what the cotton gin was to cotton. Now, when the cotton gin was invented, cotton went from being the most expensive fiber in the world, worn by only rich people, to the cheapest fiber in the world, worn by everybody. Now, if a machine was invented that would have revolutionized hemp the way the cotton gin did the cotton, why is it that 2 months later that this plant is made illegal? And is there a connection between those two events?
Some believe there was a connection. At that time, the giant DuPont Chemical Corporation was doing big business selling chemicals to make paper from trees. It was also perfecting synthetics it hoped would make natural fibers redundant in textiles and cordage. Jack Herer argues that a revived hemp industry would have encroached on DuPont's potential profits.
DuPont came up with nylon, and nylon was going to be big. They were going to make everything out of it. They built it as synthetic hemp. It's synthetic linen. Anytime you wanted nylon, you had to go to DuPont. Anytime you wanted the plastic fiber, you had to go to DuPont. They had the hold on the world, and the world loved nylon.
Look what's here, girls. Nylon. Thousands of spools of nylon thread. You guessed it, all going into stockings. The knitters are running night and day. Gentlemen, have you ever seen a lovelier smile?
DuPont's commercial interests would not have been lost on Andrew Mellon, DuPont's banker and head of the Mellon Bank, America's 5th largest. Mellon had not only lent DuPont millions of dollars, he was also head of the U.S. Treasury. In that capacity, he had appointed Harry Anslinger as Federal Narcotics Commissioner, the man who campaigned hardest for national laws against hemp. As it happened, Mellon was more than Anslinger's boss. He was, in fact, family, because Anslinger had married his niece. This apparent convergence of interests cannot be proven, but it makes for interesting speculation.
DuPont, Harry Anslinger, and Andrew Mellon. I can't actually put them into the room saying, oh, here, let's have laws against marijuana. But you can't take men. If these men didn't know who their main competitor was, who could make no use for most of those chemicals that DuPont was making, if these men didn't know it, they would be ignorant. They would be so stupid they'd be embarrassed at any board meeting. So they did away with their competition, which was hemp.
Those who believe hemp's prohibition was partly driven by commercial interests point to the sudden about-face by the US government just 5 years later. During the Second World War, with nylon manufacturing still in its infancy, America faced a desperate shortage of cordage. The government encouraged farmers to grow hemp, the same demon, marijuana, for the war effort.
Hemp for mooring ships, hemp for tackle and gear, thread for shoes for millions of American soldiers, and parachute webbing for our paratroopers. Hemp for victory.
By the end of the war, hemp was no longer needed as a strategic resource. Now, the military was called out against its former ally.
Marijuana is a weed and spreads like crabgrass once it goes to sea. But 3 Marines armed with flamethrowers live up to the Corps' boast. They have the situation well in hand.
Actions like these marked the beginning of the modern war on marijuana, a war Harry Anslinger took to the United Nations. As America's representative on the UN Drugs Committee, Anslinger initiated a series of conventions to prohibit the plant worldwide.
You know, you can't get government aid from the United States unless you have a plan in your country to eradicate hemp. You know, Bangladesh, bang means marijuana. That's what it means. Bangladesh means marijuana land people. We went there and destroyed all the hemp in Bangladesh. It was holding all those hillsides together. Suddenly there's massive flooding all over this country. You know, it's insane. It's like it's a genocide war against a plant.
The prohibition of marijuana has made it more valuable per ounce than gold. It supports vast criminal empires and has made cannabis a multi-billion-dollar crop in the world economy for all the wrong reasons.
The whole movement would be overjoyed if we could separate non-THC hemp from marijuana as a separate issue. And they won't let us do that. They won't, and the United States government won't recognize that you can grow this plant without any drug. And so we can have paper made out of hemp, and we can have clothes made out of hemp, and we can produce it all here in this country. And the farmers can make the money, and we can have a whole industry based around hemp. And it won't have any THC, won't have any recreational drug use whatsoever. But they won't let us make that separation. And I believe that's why, that's the evidence that the THC is just the smokescreen. And it's the hemp that they're really concerned about.
We haven't seen anybody yet come up with an answer to the forest crisis that says, here's the way to solve the problem. One group says, stop cutting the trees. The other group says, let us take them all down. And the in-between is, trees are fiber. Hemp is fiber. It's as simple as that. Hemp is a far superior fiber.
I believe if the end uses for hemp, which are the paper, the fibre and the ethanol end uses, are successfully commercialised, I think we could see hemp as a billion-dollar crop for the turn of the century for Australia.